CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
CFB Esquimalt is getting a major upgrade. Defense Minister Peter MacKay visited the base this afternoon to announce millions of dollars in improvements to the Navy's West Coast operations. CTV's Stephen Andrew was there and joins us now live with the details. Stephen?
Andrew, it appears that recently, every time Peter MacKay comes to Vancouver Island, he brings his checkbook. And today, the Defense Minister announced close to $11 million in improvements to Navy operations on the West Coast. Part of that money will pay for work that is already underway on a $1 million upgrade to a jetty at CFB Esquimalt. Now, this is the jetty that is the scene of so many mission departures and arrivals at the base, and close to $6 million will go to upgrade electrical and communication systems at Rocky Point. Now, that's the ammunition depot for Vancouver Island. The Defense Minister says that the funding is part of a government plan to modernize the military.
And we're trying to get these projects done in such a way that after competitive competition, after engagement with local industry and construction, that we maximize the job and economic potential at various locations across the country.
CFB Esquimalt will also see upgrades to its Canadian Forces Fleet School and the Combat Electronic Work Centre. Now, the total amount of today's funding announcement, $10.9 million. And Andrew, we also asked the Defence Minister when Vancouver Island is going to see the new Cyclone helicopters that the government purchased to replace the aging Sea King helicopters. Peter MacKay is not very happy with the delay, and coming up on CTV News at 6, we'll have more on how MacKay plans to deal with that situation. Andrew?
We'll see you then. Thanks, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Now to an update on a love story we first brought you last night on CTV News. Leading seaman Devin Maxwell is training in Hawaii, taking part in the RIMPAC military exercise. Before he was deployed, he wrote 241 love letters to his wife, one for every day he's away. She's been posting some of the love letters online, and the response sparked an internet frenzy, with millions of people logging on each day for the latest installment. He spoke to us today via Skype from Pearl Harbor.
There's actually quite a few things that made me want to write these letters to my wife. One of them being that she is a great woman. She's very kind and caring, and she expresses how much she loves me on a daily basis. So being that I know that I was going to be going away for the 8-month deployment, and this would be the longest time that we had ever been apart from each other, I wanted to make sure that she knew that she wasn't going to be completely alone. And I wanted to be able to make her smile every day, even though I wasn't going to be there.
I could conquer the world with just
Maxwell says his wife is his inspiration, and he wants to keep her smiling every day. More than 26 million people have viewed the photos of the cards and added thousands of comments to accompany them. Well, hockey doesn't make many headlines in mid-July, but the Victoria Royals are making a summer splash, announcing former NHLer Dave Lowry as the team's new head coach. Lowry takes over from the team's inaugural coach and GM Mark Habscheid. Myra Lawrence was at today's big announcement. I'm just so excited I couldn't get it out. Joins us with more.
Well, AJ, being the Flames fans that you are, I know you definitely like this hire. Lowry spent last season as assistant coach of the Calgary Flames, and prior to that, he was the head coach with the Calgary Hitmen. That Hitmen team made it all the way to the WHL finals. Lowry calls himself a player's coach who is committed to building a winning culture here in Victoria.
I've always liked the island, and you know, spent a lot of time in the Lower Mainland, and this opportunity, but more so the people involved in the organization. That's what the big selling factor was. In fact, that I want to be a head coach.
The first phone conversation I had with Dave, I had a really good rapport with him. I think we were on the same page in terms of what he thinks about how to work with young players. But in fairness to all of the other guys that had looked into this job, they're all good in that respect. So I don't know what it was. You can't really put your finger on it, but when we finally had our face-to-face meeting and we had a good long talk, my comfort level was very high with Dave, and there was nothing that sort of shook me out of the idea that he was the guy.
Dave Lowry and Cam Hope, these are the new look of the Victoria Royals. Now, Dave Lowry will take care of the on-ice product. Newly hired GM Cam Hope is going to take care of all the hockey business. It may be a perfect union, Andrew. Lowry said at the media conference he wants no part of GM duties, and had RG Properties chosen to keep the coach and GM positions together, he likely wouldn't have pursued the position. I know that you knew who Dave Lowry was due to his extensive Calgary connection, but other Islanders may know him from his Victoria connection. Dave's son Joel Lowry spent 2 seasons playing for the Victoria Grizzlies between 2009 and 2011. We'll have much more with the hiring of Dave Lowry, the former Calgary Flame, coming up during main sports.
I don't think we need to focus on that. This is Canucks country. We'll stick to his son.
He was drafted by the Canucks, so how's that?
Good. Let's throw that in. I don't need to flash my Flames affiliation around anymore.
You're going to get hate mail right away.
Thanks, Myra.
You're welcome.
The Governor General of Canada is hopping aboard with the Canadian Coast Guard as the Honorary Chief Commissioner. David Johnston was invested into his new role during a ceremony at Government House today. Johnston was presented a new silver coin produced by the Royal Canadian Mint to welcome him aboard. He says it's a real honor to be ensuring safe waterways for Canadians, especially on the Canadian Coast Guard's 50th anniversary.
I have great admiration for the men and women that wear the Canadian uniform to protect us and look after us. Those old-fashioned concepts of honor, service, duty are lived out every day in what those people do. Our Coast Guard, I'm told, saves 10 lives a day. Just imagine that, touching people in that direct way. Very proud to follow in that tradition.
The Governor General also handed out Diamond Jubilee medals to Canadians who have served our country. Johnston is now heading to Hawaii, where he will be visiting the Canadian Forces members training in the RIMPAC exercises. Victoria police have raided a large grow-op, one they say was the beginning of a major drug operation. More than 400 marijuana plants were seized, along with 31 halogen lights and a large amount of hydroponic growing equipment. The raid happened at a house in the 900 block of Parklands Avenue in Esquimalt, and Victoria police shot this video inside before dismantling the operation. Police say the plants were in the early stage of growth, but estimate the value was around $150,000. If the plants were fully mature, officers say the grow-op could have brought in nearly $500,000 annually. A 62-year-old man was arrested at the home. Police say charges will be laid once the investigation is complete. A Victoria cyclist is recovering tonight after being struck by a transport truck in a busy intersection. The 34-year-old man was hit around 9 this morning on Burdett Avenue and Humboldt Street. Police say he was cycling through the intersection during a green light when a large truck attempting to make a right-hand turn collided with him. One of the man's bike tires was wedged in between the truck's tires. Officers believe the cyclist may have been in the driver's blind spot.
The cyclist was traveling westbound on Burdett, proceeding through a green light, and the truck, to my understanding, was making a right turn and didn't see it. So it's not a crosswalk issue, it's more of a motor vehicle issue.
The cyclist was taken to hospital but later released with no serious injuries. Police say he only had muscle damage to his foot, miraculous considering the condition of his bike. A frantic search for a missing hiker has ended tragically after his body was discovered at Colliery Dam in Nanaimo. The 61-year-old was at the park with his family when he left to take some photos and never returned. Nanaimo's search and rescue was called in just before midnight to help the man. RCMP say around 4:30 this morning his body was found in a deep pool of water not far from where he was last seen.
Male ventured off from a group that was fishing. He said he was going off to take some photographs in the park. By about 10:30, he didn't return home. His family contacted the RCMP. We searched along with his family to about 11:30. Nothing was found. Search and rescue was called in, and about 4:30 this morning, tragically, they found his body in a deep pool of water about 300 meters from where he was last seen. There's always a risk factor when you're near water, especially at night when the light is setting. You have to be careful about losing your footing, your step. There's no railings. It's a natural park. So tragically, this may have happened to him.
RCMP say foul play is not involved. The coroner's service is warning parents about the dangers of small cribs that attach to adult beds. A baby died in Surrey last year after becoming trapped between the bed and the crib. Health Canada recalled the most common type of co-sleeper last year made by Arms Reach, but they can still be bought used and in the United States. The coroner says babies are safest sleeping on their back in a properly designed crib with no quilts, pillows, stuffed toys, or other soft material. The BC Coroner Service says 2 victims of the landslide in Johnson's Landing may never be found, but searchers aren't giving up yet. The slide buried 3 homes, killing 4 people, but only 2 bodies have been recovered. A search and rescue team arrived back in Vancouver this morning as the first phase of the search wrapped up. Rescue crews say they are reassessing where to look and if it's safe to continue searching.
After reflection, after our final operational period last night, talking to the chief coroner and her assistants up there, We realized the magnitude of the operation that we were faced with up there, and believe that we really did do everything in our power to bring closure for the families and find those missing people.
Rescue crews say it was a very difficult site to work in because they ran the risk of being around during another potential landslide. Ford is making a nearly unprecedented move, warning owners of the new 2013 Escape SUV to stop driving it immediately. The warning applies to the new Escapes with 1.6-liter engines. The engine is at risk of bursting into flames. The company says a faulty fuel line in the vehicle can crack and spill gasoline, igniting engine fires. If you own an affected vehicle, you're asked to call your dealer, then they will come and get it from you and drop off a loaner. Researchers say they have discovered a link between a deadly virus in farmed salmon and freshwater fish in BC. Scientists say cutthroat trout in Cultus Lake have a virus known as PRV, which has been linked to a heart and skeletal muscle disease. Out of the 15 tested from the lake, 13 were positive for PRV. The genetic sequencing was 99% identical to Norwegian strains, which can kill up to 20% of infected fish. A biologist from Simon Fraser University says this should be a wake-up call for all levels of government.
We need to be looking at the extent of the virus in the sockeye population and in other freshwater trout populations. We need to start to understand the dynamics of the virus, how it spreads, how it got in there, and what we can do, if anything, to try to control it. If we don't take this seriously, we're running a huge risk.
This is believed to be the first discovery of PRV in freshwater fish in BC. More than 10,000 people are calling on the province to protect BC forests, and they have the signatures to prove it. Forest Ethics Solutions, Greenpeace, and the Sierra Club of BC presented Premier Christy Clark with a scroll of signatures today, asking the province to protect the Great Bear Rainforest. The province set a target to preserve 70% of the forest, but so far, only half of the land is off limits to logging.
So essentially, we are at 50% protection of old-growth ecosystems for the Great Bear Rainforest. And science has told us, independent science has told us that we need to get to 70% protection of old-growth ecosystems. So there's a 20% gap. And so we are trying to get to that level of protection because that will be ecological integrity.
The Great Bear Rainforest petition was launched in February online at takeittaller.ca. A new good luck charm is giving wings to the athletes in the upcoming 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games in London. The Royal Canadian Mint was showing off its new loonie in circulation today. It features the iconic loon spreading its wings over lake waters and the Canadian Olympic team logo. 5 million new lucky loonies are now in circulation. It's often said that newer isn't always better. The representative for children and youth says that is exactly the case with a new computer system that was supposed to help protect vulnerable children in BC. The system was launched in April, meant to speed up processes and link information about vulnerable children and their families. But the province's representative for children and youth says it has been doing the exact opposite. The program has reportedly been tripping up, making it difficult for workers to review child protection cases.
What used to take 15 to 20 minutes is sometimes taking as long as half a day. Then when they do enter the information, they're not always able to retrieve it. It's very important in child welfare that you can get access to the information. It's hard to tell what the story is, what's happened in the past with a child. And then, of course, to request a service or send an alert is not always possible. So there's multiple problems with how complex it is and whether it suits the business of child protection.
Trapel Lafon says this is a significant issue that is putting vulnerable children at risk because some social workers have found they can't access important information, such as medical history, safety alerts, and family records. The dry weather is fueling a partial fire ban on Vancouver Island. Starting tomorrow at noon, open fires and fireworks are prohibited across the Coastal Fire Centre except for Haida Gwaii. The ban stays in effect until at least September 15th. It does not include small campfires, gas cooking stoves, or propane barbecues. The Coastal Fire Centre says it is vital that anyone lighting a campfire makes sure to douse it when they're done.
Unfortunately, we still are finding campfires that haven't been put out properly. We're beginning to think that perhaps people think they've done a good job, but they're just not quite taking it that extra step. So we're asking people to soak them well, turn them over, soak them again, and make sure that they're cool to the touch before they leave the area.
Anyone caught breaking the fire ban could face penalties anywhere between $345 and $10,000. People living in the Parksville area are being asked to turn off the taps and watch their water use. A high level of turbidity or muddiness in the Englishman River forced the shutdown of the river supply on Tuesday, and all water coming from city-owned wells. The river has cleared and water is flowing again, but the city is putting water restrictions into place.
In this particular case, we assessed it, and we did take some steps to reduce our own water demands and asked our citizens to as well. And now we're able to again access the river, and we're seeing our reservoirs refill and recharge, which is what we want to see.
The water park and city irrigation is flowing again after a temporary shutdown, but now people living in the city of Parksville are on a watering restriction. 2 hours of watering per designated watering day, and the city is asking people limit their overall water use. Nanaimo RCMP have made up their minds and chosen a winning name for their marine enforcement boat. RCMP turned to local students for help in naming the Zodiac 2 months ago. More than 70 entries were submitted.